republic, once equally poised, must either preserve its virtue or lose its liberty. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked rule, the people mourn. When statesmen forsake their private conscience for their public duty, they begin to lead their nation on a short route to chaos. Abortion, euthanasia, pornography, sodomy, suicide, greed, schools in crisis, a nation poised to lose its virtue, its liberty. Join us now for Frontline Focus and examine into the state of our nation. Here is your host, John Tomicki.
Hello and welcome again to the special edition of Frontline Focus. Recently, the New Jersey legislature stopped its normal business of discussing and analyzing legislation to take time out to honor an American citizen by the name of Harry Wu. Some of you may know this gentleman's name and his background, but some of you may not. He was initially born in China, and while growing up and studying in the communist education system, he began to criticize what communism was doing, particularly the Russians invading Afghanistan. As a result of that, eventually he was found to be, a dissident, a counter-revolutionary. He was sent off to prison, and he served 19 years in the Logai communist prison system. Because he wanted to be able to read a certain book named Les Miserables, you will find that he was beaten. His arm was broken. His leg was broken. He understands what it is to be persecuted, not for just your political beliefs, but also for your religious beliefs. Mr. Wu, now an American citizen, has revealed to the West and revealed to this nation the terrible persecution of the underground church. The fact that within the prison system, prisoners are being forced to work without tools, the goods are sold, the profits go to the People's Liberation Army, and we buy them. Go look at your Christmas lights that you may have bought this last season and see where it's made in China. This program is not here just to talk about what Mr. Wu has done and also exposing the execution of political prisoners for body parts. That the New York Times clearly showed. But when the New Jersey legislature, both and particularly the New Jersey Assembly, heard this man talking that he never thought he would be free again, that he was put in jail because of his religion, that he was put in jail because of his belief in Jeffersonian principles, they stood to their feet. They applauded this man not once but twice. He said, I know what it means to be free, but you cannot trade with a country that forcibly aborts its children and straps women down. Many of you don't believe that there is religious persecution and slavery going on in the world today. Well, there's a gentleman I've gotten to know a few years ago that works in this area of human rights. His name is Jim Geist, and we've invited Jim back here to the set of Frontline Focus to kind of bring us on an update on what's happening. And Jim, thank you so much for coming.
John, thanks for having me.
And I know from time to time before we introduce your guest, they're going to see a young student, but I really wanted to get you to come here now because some of us believe that the whole issue involving religious persecution and slavery is being suppressed. We're not hearing about it. We don't, there may be a little small column, a little small this, but it's not there. And it's true. What's happening? What's out here in the world outside of the United States right now?
Well, I found out about the persecution by reading the New York Times, and actually it was 2 years ago. It was in February of '96. I read an editorial by A.M. Rosenthal, and it was entitled Persecuting the Christians. And now I'm in ministry, and I said, persecuting the Christians? I mean, every now and then I'd read an article about a missionary getting killed in South America or maybe in the Middle East. But in this article, he quoted Nina Shea, and she said, millions of Christians pray in their churches, American Christians pray in their churches each week, totally oblivious to the fact that millions of their brothers and sisters suffer religious persecution. In the article, it said that more Christians have been killed in this century, in the last 100 years, than from the time of Christ up through the 19th century. 500 Christians are killed every day, 20 per hour, because of their religious faith in Christ. And I was so convicted by this. I said, my gosh, I was involved with the sweatshop issue, but when I heard about this, I said, I need to get involved. Part of the reason was while I was in seminary, one of my heroes was Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and he was a minister during Nazi Germany. And when he found out what was happening, that people were being arrested, thrown into concentration camps, he started telling people, do you realize what's happening? People are being thrown into concentration camps. People are being killed. And people would say to him, well, that can't be true. That can't be happening here. Some were even so bold as to say, well, why rock the boat? Why did you try to do anything about it? And ultimately, he was killed for speaking out on the persecution that was taking place. Also, Martin Niemöller, who was a pastor, has a famous saying. He said, when the Nazis first came for the communists, I didn't speak up because I wasn't communist. And then when they came for the Jews, I didn't speak up because I wasn't Jewish. And then when they came for the Catholics, I didn't speak up because I wasn't Catholic. And then when they came for me, there was no one left to speak out. So seeing the movie Schindler's List and these two heroes of mine, reading about them, I said, my gosh, I need to get involved. But even more so for selfish reasons, I thought, my gosh, if I was in a country where I was imprisoned or being tortured or family members killed because of their faith in Christ, I would pray that my brothers and sisters who lived in countries where there was free speech would speak out on my behalf. So thanks to Mr. A.M. Rosenthal from the New York Times, that's how I got involved with this movement.
But where is it happening? Where is it happening today?
It's happening in countries that are Muslim and in communist countries. It's happening in the communist countries of China, North Korea, Vietnam, Cuba, and Laos. And as you know, this Christmas was the first time they celebrated Christmas in Cuba in 29 years. It's happening in the Islamic countries of Sudan, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Nigeria, Indonesia, Iran, and Iraq. Now what's interesting, Saudi Arabia, a country that is one of our allies that we protected 5 years ago during the Persian Gulf War, our soldiers were not allowed to carry an Old Testament or a New Testament. They could not wear a cross or a Star of David. In the American embassy, you are not allowed to have a Bible study or a worship service. And that's sovereign soil. Now, what's interesting is that some of the members of the embassy were upset because they could not drink alcohol, being in an Islamic country where the Constitution is the Quran. And they went to the Clinton administration, and you can now drink alcohol in the Saudi Arabian embassy, but you cannot have a Bible study there.
I don't want to touch that one. I don't want to touch that one at all. But could we try to focus it a bit, because I think Congress dealt with it in the legislation, and you have an issue going on in Sudan right now where also slavery has become also a big issue, and
Yes.
and that's why I think there's some students involved in Denver. Can you tell us a little bit of that, because that's where you brought your guest here, Gavin?
Yes. Well, the Specter Wolf Religious Freedom Act passed, and I want to say that that's a miracle. President Clinton mentioned something about child labor this year in his State of the Union address. It took that lobby 10 years for the president to acknowledge anything about child labor. The religious persecution bill, we were able to get a bill passed within 2 years. And the encouraging thing about that is that there's more churches than there are chambers of commerce. When this bill was introduced, the Clinton administration fought against it. The business community spent more money on this bill than any other bill that's ever been where money's been spent. The New York Times, 2 weeks before the bill was voted on, declared the bill dead. Dead. And it passed in May by a vote of 375 to 41. Overwhelmingly, the House of Representatives voted in favor of it. And then in October, in the middle of October, the Senate voted on the Nichols bill, and it passed unanimously, 98-0. So the American people spoke up. Churches and synagogues wrote to the representatives, and the bill was passed. Now that was, I formed a group in New York City, and we have 50 different groups working together. So we lobbied, we educated people, we helped get this bill passed. Now I'm focusing on the Sudan. Why the Sudan? Number one, the United Nations, Human Rights Watch, and Amnesty International has said the worst human rights are happening in the Sudan. Do you realize that more people, well, let me briefly explain. In the north, in 1899, Britain and Egypt conquered the Sudan. At that time it was known as Nubia, it's now known as Sudan. In the north it was mostly Arabic and Muslim. Southern Sudan is mostly Christian, Muslim, and has traditional worshippers there who've lived together in harmony for generations. In 1989 there was a coup d'etat. The army was taken over by General Bashir, And Al-Turabi also works with him. It's called the National Islamic Front. They declare jihad on the South. They are trying to Arabize and Islamize the South. And more people have been killed in the Sudan than Bosnia, Kosovo, and Rwanda combined,
The figure
and
is
it's
what?
getting no coverage.
I think it's
1.5 million
million.
people have been killed. Now, 1,000 people have been killed in Kosovo, and already we're planning on sending United Nations troops over here. I think that's a good thing. But when you have 1,000 people killed, or 1.5 million people, when are we going to intervene in the Sudan? And so that's why there's a grassroots movement rising up in America, and I believe that this issue will be dealt with this year in the 106th Congress.